Hello, it's Miss C. Harris, and today it's time to see what's happening with Miss Harris. So go ahead, grab your paper and your pencil, and let's get started. All right, so ladies and gentlemen, today our focus is going to be on analyzing reflections. Analyzing reflections. So we're going to get a little bit of vocabulary out of the way. First and foremost, what is a reflection? A reflection is a transformation that flips an object over a line without changing its size or shape. Then we're going to look at line of reflection. A line of reflection is a line that is midway between each point on a pre-image and each point on its image. Now let's take a look at how to graph a reflection. How to graph a reflection. Step one. The first thing we're going to do is graph the pre-image on a coordinate plane. Then, after graphing the pre-image on the coordinate plane, step two, we will count the number of units each point is from the line of reflection. Next, step three, we will reflect the pre-image by moving each point the same number of units on the opposite side of the line of reflection. Now let's do an example. In this example, we're going to be reflecting ABCD across the y-axis. Well, step one, first we're going to have to graph the pre-image on a coordinate plane. Here we have our pre-image. Here we have this quadrilateral ABCD. Step two, we're going to count the number of units each point is from the line of reflection. And we were told that our line of reflection is going to be the y-axis. So every single point is going to flip over the y-axis. To do this, we're going to count how many units each point is from the line of reflection. So as you can see, point A is 3 units from the line of reflection, which is the y-axis. Then, after we do this, we're going to reflect the pre-image by moving each point the same number of units on the opposite side of the line of reflection. So, since point A is 3 units from the y-axis, we're going to move over 3 units in the opposite direction, and this will become A prime. All right, step 4, we're going to repeat steps 2 and 3 for all remaining points. All right, so the next point was point B. As we can see, point B is 8 units. 8 units. There are 8 units between point B and the y-axis. So now that we've counted the number of units from point B to the y-axis, we're going to reflect the same 8 units on the opposite side of the y-axis. And here's our B prime. We'll repeat steps 2 and 3 again for point C. We're going to see point C is how many points away or how many units away from the y-axis? You've guessed it. Point C is 8 units away from the y-axis. So in order to reflect, we're going to flip 8 points on the opposite side of the y-axis, and this will yield C prime. Our final point is point D. Point D is only 3 units away from the y-axis. Therefore, we're going to go ahead to step 3, which is reflect 3 units on the opposite side of the y-axis. Then when we're done, we can connect our points, and then we'll get our image. And this is how you reflect an image across the coordinate plane. Let's take a look at step 2. Step 2, you're going to take out your math workbook. We'll look at the bottom of page 305. Now, this problem is a little different. It says polygon ABCDE is reflected across line X equals -2. Then we're going to graph and label the image A prime, B prime, C prime, D prime, E prime. All right. So the first thing we need to do is graph the pre-image on the coordinate plane. As you can see, the pre-image has already been graphed for us. So step 2, we're going to count the number of units each point is from the line of reflection. In our instructions, they told us that our line is going to reflect across x equals -2. So here's what we need to do. This tells us that our line of reflection is going to cross point -2 on the x-axis. So we're going to plot a point on -2 on the x-axis, and then we're going to draw a line that is going to cut through -2 on the x-axis. This is our line of reflection. Now we'll go ahead to the next step, which is to count the number of units each point is from the line of reflection. As you can see, point A is 2 units from our line of reflection. And then step 3, we'll go ahead and reflect our point in the opposite direction of our line. Then we'll get our A prime. And we'll continue these steps for the remaining points. Point B is 1 unit from our line of reflection, so we'll go 1 unit in the opposite direction. There's our B prime. Point C, it's only 1 unit away from our line of reflection. That'll yield our C prime. Point D, it is 3 units away from the line of reflection. Therefore, we will go 3 units on the opposite side of the line of reflection, and this will yield our D prime. Last but not least, point E. Point E is 3 units away from the line of reflection. Therefore, we will go 3 units in the opposite direction, and this will yield our E prime. Once we're done, we can connect all of our points. And here we have a line that has been reflected across x equals -2. Our last example, your practice today is going to be on the website IXL.com. So we're going to pull one example from that website so that you can get an idea of what will be expected of you. So here's our problem. The problem in this sample problem is asks us to graph the image of rectangle STUV after reflection over the x-axis. So per usual, the first thing we're going to do is graph the pre-image on the coordinate plane. As you can see, IXL has already graphed the pre-image for us. Step 2, we're going to count the number of units each point is from the line of reflection. According to our instructions, our line of reflection will be over the x-axis. All right, so here's the x-axis. That's going to be our line of reflection. So every single point is going to flip over the x-axis. To help ourselves out, IXL is pretty lenient when it comes to us following the order of the letters that they've given us. So the order that they've given us is STUV. So we're going to reflect each point according to the alphabetical list. Okay, so we're going to start with point S. As we can see, point S is 9 units. There are 9 units between point S and the x-axis. Therefore, we will follow along with step 3, which tells us to reflect each point the same number of units on the opposite side of the line of reflection. Therefore, we're going to go 8 units on the opposite side of the x-axis, and here will be our S prime. All right, then we will continue step 4, which is to repeat steps 2 and 3 for all remaining points. So according to the alphabetical list, point T will come next. So we will count to see how many units point T is away from the x-axis, which is our line of reflection. And then we will go the same number of units on the opposite side of the line of reflection. So T prime will be 9 units above the x-axis, just as you can see. Next, we'll move on to the next letter, which is the letter U. U is only 5 units away from our line of reflection. Therefore, we will go in the opposite direction, which is 5 units above the x-axis. Therefore, our U prime will be here. Last but not least, point V. Point V is 5 units below the line of reflection, which is our x-axis. Therefore, we will go in the opposite direction. We will go above the x-axis, which is 5 units above. And here's our point V prime. And then when you're done, you can go ahead and connect all of your points. And there you have it, a perfect quadrilateral that has been reflected over the x-axis. Ladies and gentlemen, I thank you all so much for taking the opportunity to tune in today to see what's happening with Miss Harris. Be sure you take a moment to take practice, come back and review the video if you need to. And I appreciate you all so much for taking the opportunity just to see what's happening with Miss Harris. You all have a lovely day and know that Miss Harris loves you oh so much. Toodles. Mwah.